Alright, it's been a minute since I talked about games here, and I thought, what better time than now, especially all these beautiful, fantastic, and fire games that have come out this year. And there's still plenty of heavy hitters that are getting closer to release dates. Honestly, this could be a contender for one of the best years for gaming, but the downside to that is that it's also the toughest because our pockets are fucking howling, and we just got 5 months into 2023. By the end of it, they're gonna be screeching and yelling bloody murder. Now, I know this is a video that you would make maybe a month or two before the Game Awards, but since they announced a release date, or I guess the release window for Tears of the Kingdom back in 2021, it was already set in stone what will win Game of the Year in 2023. Technically, it was supposed to be 2022, but you know, delays and stuff. Honestly, if it came out last year, it would have been insane. Everyone on the edge of their seats, anybody's assholes would have been clenched. Would Elden Ring have still won over Tears of the Kingdom? That's something I might have to find the answer to once the game comes out. Anyways, this all got me thinking, does winning Game of the Year really mean anything? Or did it even ever have meaning or significance in the first place? Because for the most part, these award shows, and ceremonies can sometimes just be a popularity contest. We're gonna figure that out one way or another. Before we go any further, you might be curious, what's my Game of the Year? Or you might be thinking, it's sorry for. Will that change? We'll see. Also, this is my opinion. Usually, I don't need to or care to say that. But with certain fandoms and communities of certain games, they don't think before they speak. So I may glaze, dick ride the hell out of some games, or I may overly shit on them. Now, we're gonna go through 5 different sources for this. The Golden Joysticks Awards, the mAfw Awards, the DICE Awards, the Game Developers Choice Awards, and Jeff Keighley's Game Awards. So we're just gonna go through the years. Because let's be honest, who really remembers what won a certain year? And if it's a mediocre or ass year, I won't mention it. Also, I'm gonna have 3 different categories to put the games in. It's either gonna be make sense, no arguments. If yes, it's carried by its name, or I respect it. It's gonna be a little weird at first, since some outlets didn't start doing this until 1998, early 2000. They might have missed some years, so bear with me. We're gonna start at 96. Golden Joysticks had Super Mario 64 as their Game of the Year. Makes sense, no arguments. One of the greatest games of all time. It was genre defining, industry defining, and it's still playable. 96 did have a lot of bangers though. Resident Evil, Tomb Raider, Quake, Duke Nukem 3D, Super Mario RPG, Mario Kart 64, Crash Bandicoot, Diablo, Bubsy 3D. Now 97, at first glance I thought this was a throwaway year, since DICE had GoldenEye as their Game of the Year. Don't get me wrong, it's a classic game. I had a ton of fun playing it when I was a kid. But do you know what else came out in 1997? Don't worry, I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. Final Fantasy VII. That's kinda nuts. It's one of the greatest games of all time. One of the greatest RPGs of all time. It has one of the greatest villains of all time. And a well-beloved protagonist. I just think GoldenEye was carried because of the movies. In 98/99, DICE and mAfw had Ocarina of Time as their Game of the Year. In 99, it makes sense, no argument. In 98, it does make sense, but there could be some arguments to be had. You got Metal Gear Solid, Half-Life, Fallout 2, Resident Evil 2, Pokemon Red and Blue, Banjo-Kazooie, and most importantly, Gek. In 2000, DICE and game developers had The Sims as their Game of the Year. When I saw that, I thought this would be a throwaway year. But you have to be smoking hella dick if you think it should have won over Majora's Mask, Diablo 2, hell, even Counter-Strike and MVC 2. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I respect it. In 2001, DICE had Halo Combat Evolved as their Game of the Year, and game developers had GTA 3 as theirs. Honestly, they both make sense, but 2001 was a fucking stacked year. All these games came out, like, you can't even be mad. The only thing you can be upset about is one of the nominees.
Excuse me?
Who? Let's look this up. In 2002, game developers had Metroid Prime as their Game of the Year. You know, I think there were better games, but I respect it. In 2003, DICE and mAfw had Call of Duty as their Game of the Year. Love or hate COD now. It makes sense. Game developers had Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic as theirs. Makes sense, can't argue that. And the Game Awards had Madden 04 as theirs. Yo, Jeff, what did y'all have going on over there? Who did y'all have voting for that over Wind Waker, Prince of Persia, The Simpsons Hit and Run, COD, Star Wars, Max Payne 2, True Crime, Need for Speed Underground, Tony Hawk's Car? I was like, come on, you're wilding. What are you doing? In 2004, DICE, mAfw, and game developers had Half-Life 2 as their Game of the Year. The Game Awards had GTA San Andreas as theirs. Both of those make absolute sense, but you could argue against it with some of the other games that year. And Golden Joysticks had Doom 3 as theirs. How? That's straight BS. Is carried by his name. You can't tell me it deserves it over Metal Gear Solid 3, Halo 2, Half-Life 2, and San Andreas. If you believe that, you need to be evaluated. I'm on my knees. In 2005, one of the greatest games of all time, it was my 3rd favorite game of all time, we'll get back to that in 2023, was released. The Game Awards had Resident Evil 4 as their Game of the Year. DICE had God of War as theirs, and game developers had Shadow of the Colossus as theirs. These make sense, no argument. In 2006, Golden Joysticks and the Game Awards had Oblivion as their Game of the year. DICE and game developers had Gears of War as theirs. Both make sense, no argument. And BAFTA had Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter as theirs.
It's getting ridiculous. It's really ridiculous.
Over Twilight Princess, Kingdom Hearts 2, and Bully. How? I just don't get it. Am I missing something? Is it because it's Tom Clancy? Is that really carrying it? In 2007, the Game Awards and BAFTA had BioShock as their game of the year. Game developers had Portal as theirs, and DICE had COD 4 as theirs. BioShock and Modern Warfare, zero arguments there. Now Portal, that's an interesting choice. I respect it though. Okay, I'm gonna speedrun 2008, 2009, and 2010. In 08, Fallout 3, GTA 4, and Little Big Planet won Game of the Year. In 09, Uncharted 2 and Arkham Asylum won Game of the Year. And in 2010, Red Dead Redemption and Mass Effect 2 won Game of the Year. In 2011, DICE, game developers, and the Game Awards had Skyrim as their Game of the Year. Golden Joysticks and BAFTA had Portal 2 as theirs. Skyrim, that obviously makes sense. Portal 2, I want to say I respect it, but it might be carried a little because it's Valve. I think Arkham City should have won over it. In 2013, honestly, we should all remember what came out this year and what won. It was either the second best selling game of all time winning it, or it was quite literally what could be considered one of the greatest stories in a video game winning it. In 2015, the Game Awards, Golden Joysticks, and game developers had The Witcher 3 as their game of the year. Makes absolute sense, no goddamn arguments. DICE and BAFTA had Fallout 4 as theirs. Yeah, that's BS, it was 100% carried by its name. That game was such a disappointment that the modders had to make it actually enjoyable, but you could have picked Bloodborne, Metal Gear Solid 5, Life is Strange, or even Undertale. In 2016, Golden Joysticks had Dark Souls 3 as their game of the year. BAFTA had Uncharted 4 as theirs. Both make sense. DICE, game developers, and Game Awards had Overwatch.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
I need to know who let that happen, because that was definite BS. In 2017, Breath of the Wild would have swept, but BAFTA voted for What Remains of Edith Finch. Obviously, in no way in hell that should have won, but I respect it. That's hilarious. In 2018, God of War could have swept, but Golden Joysticks had Fortnite as their game of the year. I need to know what drugs some of these publications or whoever voted this game were on, because no, that's just stupidity at its best. But low-key, I respect it. In 2019, Golden Joysticks had RE2 Remake as their game of the year. No argument. BAFTA had Outer Wilds as theirs. I respect it. The Game Awards had Sekiro as theirs. Makes sense. DICE and game developers had Untitled Goose Game as theirs. Do these other games not exist, whoever voted for this? Whatever. In 2020, honestly, I'm surprised Last of Us 2 didn't sweep this. But DICE, game developers, and BAFTA had Hades as their game of the year. I get it. It does make sense. I need that Hades too. Now, The Last of Us 2, I don't think it's BS, but it's definitely carried by its name. Don't get me wrong, The Last of Us 1 is a masterpiece, but part 2 is so controversial and it did not need a sequel. I don't know. In 2021, Golden Joysticks had RE Village as their game of the year. BAFTA had Returnal as theirs. Game developers had Inscription as theirs. DICE and the Game Awards had It Takes Two as theirs. The majority of these make sense. You can't be mad. Inscription, even though the second half of that game is a little I respect it. In 2022, come on, if it wasn't Elden Ring, it was God of War Ragnarok. But that's not the case, because BAFTA had Vampire Survivors as their game of the year. Bruv, fam, are you fucking mad? Fam, are you dumb? What are you talking? You know what? You got it. Okay, after going through all this, I've learned a lot and realized a few things. But before I reflect on that, does winning Game of the Year really have any meaning? Or is it just a popularity contest? If you were paying attention, well, I can't say that because I did move RE Village and Return to Respect. But to my surprise, no, it's not about popularity. And what's even more shocking is that 9% of the games in no argument are considered to be greatest of all time. They either top 3, top 5, top 10, top 15, or top 20. It's a good thing I had these categories, because if you look at the other two, there's realistically only 2 games in both of them that can be considered greatest of all time. But that could change in a couple years. You know, even after this video, I think people will still believe that these Game Awards are just a popularity contest and are some big promotion for certain companies. I do think to a certain extent they have been for some of the previous years. But you're a dumbass if you wholeheartedly believe that's all they are. If you think about it, it's actually a good thing, because it brings in more money to the gaming industry and shines a spotlight on well-deserved companies, even the smaller indie ones. Now, obviously, I don't agree with everything that won. For example, in 2002, there was another game that won that year that I didn't bother mentioning because of how ludicrous it was. DICE had Battlefield 1942 as their game of the year over GTA Vice City, Kingdom Hearts, Mario Sunshine, and Splinter Cell. Wow. Maybe I'm just not seeing what they saw or something. Another thing, maybe it was just different times, but to me it seemed like RPGs back then didn't really have the respect they do now. I think it's just crazy to see all those fire-ass RPGs released in the early 2000s, late 90s, and only 3 of them won Game of the Year. It feels like a slight discredit to them, but this is a testament to how much gaming has changed, the fans and their perspective of what they enjoy, or didn't know that they would enjoy. A great example is Zelda. It didn't win Game of the Year again until 19 years later, and in between between that time, they released 4 mainline Zelda games before Breath of the Wild, and the fan base is bigger than ever before. Now in 2023, honestly, before making this video, I thought Zelda was carried by its name, but I was wrong. I will say, if Tears of the Kingdom mostly sweeps, it is for sure carried by its name. I don't think that will happen, seeing how this year is supremely stacked, so I expect to see a few different winners. I think out of the 5 publications I talked about today, Tears of the Kingdom will win Game of the Year for 3 of them, RE4 Remake will win 1, and Armored Core 6 will win the other one. Who knows what will happen, but you know who we can ask? ChatGPT. Here are the games that are most likely going to be the nominees. So since it can't give me his opinion, I asked it to pick a number 1 through 5 for Game of the Year. Nice, and there you have it. Before I start wrapping this up, I want to say if you're excited for Tears of the Kingdom or interested in it, I will be streaming the Switch Pro version of it. Maybe. Either the day this video is uploaded or the day after. Over on OnlyFans. I need to be stopped. Over at twitch.tv/loose_. Follow my Twitter to know if I'll even go live, or just follow for the support. Links will be in the description. Real quick, I know I said I'll come back to OG RE4, but I came up with an idea for another video to follow up this one. That'll be a little more serious and in depth. Also, these goddamn baby birds tripping out my window are making it hard to make this video turn out the way I wanted it to. Yeah, truly unfortunate. Now let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? What's your game of the year? Or just leave a random comment. So with that, I do hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, share with your guild members, the boys, the girlies, or your auntie. Other than that, I'm out. Peace.